What if I told you that the fridge, the one place in your kitchen you trust above all else to keep things fresh and safe, might be doing the exact opposite for some of your healthiest foods? That crisp drawer where you store your tomatoes, the top shelf where your bread sits wrapped up, or that side door where your garlic and olive oil hide out. They could be quietly stripping flavor, draining nutrients, and working against the very health you're trying to protect. And here's the twist: these mistakes aren't obvious. They're silent, subtle, hidden in good intentions. Because after 50, we start doubling down on doing things right. We buy whole foods, cook more at home, avoid processed snacks. We lean into healing through nutrition. But if we are storing the right foods in the wrong way, that effort might not be paying off the way we think. It might be dulling the taste of our tomatoes, halting the ripening of our avocados, and turning our potatoes into sugar bombs without us even noticing. This is especially important as we age because our digestion slows, our sense of taste changes, and our nutrient needs become sharper and more urgent. That means every meal matters, every bite counts. And how we treat the food before it reaches our plate makes a world of difference. So today, we are pulling back the fridge door and taking a fresh look at what doesn't belong there. We'll explore 10 everyday foods that should stay far from the cold, and I'll walk you through not just why, but what to do instead. Because keeping food vibrant isn't about adding more, it's about storing it with wisdom. And storing it with wisdom is storing it with care for the person you are now, not just the habits you've always had. But before we dive in, if you're someone who's committed to aging with strength, clarity, and intention, and if you appreciate health content that's gentle, real, and rooted in truth, then I would be so grateful for your support. Please tap like, share this video with someone who stores bananas in the fridge, and subscribe to Age Defiant Health. Your click helps us get one step closer to our first 1,000 subscribers, and that milestone means I get to bring you even more tools to support your energy, digestion, memory, and confidence, one small change at a time. Thank you for being here. Let's open that fridge and start rethinking what freshness really means. Why fridge rules change after 50. After 50, everything about the way our body interacts with food begins to shift, not dramatically, but subtly and steadily in ways that deeply influence our health, comfort, and longevity. Digestion slows, stomach acid levels decline, enzymes become less efficient. What once felt like a quick, carefree lunch can now linger, bloat, or trigger discomfort. And the body's ability to absorb nutrients from food, especially vitamins like B12, C, and minerals like magnesium or zinc, starts to decline too. This makes food quality and the conditions under which food is stored and prepared more important than ever. Because we are no longer just eating to fill a plate or check a box. We are eating to heal, to maintain balance, and to support systems that need more support now than they did decades ago. What many people don't realize is how much temperature affects the potency and performance of whole foods. Cold environments like the inside of a refrigerator can halt enzymatic activity, stop natural ripening, and dull key flavors and aromas that signal to the brain that food is fresh and nourishing. For example, antioxidants like lycopene in tomatoes or vitamin C in melons degrade more quickly when exposed to cold before the fruit has fully ripened. Bread becomes stale not through age, but through cold-induced dehydration. Bananas blacken and lose sweetness because cold interrupts their conversion of starch to sugar. Even the rich, peppery tones of extra virgin olive oil get muted when it hardens and condenses in the fridge. The result? Food that looks fine but feels flat, tastes dull, and delivers fewer benefits with each bite. This matters even more for older adults who tend to eat less. Appetite can naturally wane due to hormonal changes, medication side effects, or a slower metabolism. That means every bite matters more. Every spoonful, every slice, every snack needs to pull its weight, not just in calories, but in color, flavor, texture, and nutrient density. When food is stored in ways that strip it of these qualities, we don't just lose taste, we lose motivation to eat. We lose moments of joy, and we might unknowingly miss out on the very nutrients that support our bones, our brain, our immune system. That's why storing food wisely isn't about being picky. It's about being purposeful. Because every meal after 50 is no longer just fuel. It's a prescription, it's a pleasure. It's a reminder of who we are, where we've been, and how we care for the life we're still building. Food becomes therapy, it becomes memory. It becomes medicine. And so our fridge, once seen as the universal protector of freshness, must now be used with nuance. Some things still belong there, of course, but many do not. Many foods, especially fresh, whole ones, actually thrive at room temperature or in thoughtfully ventilated environments. When we learn how to store them correctly, we unlock more taste, more health, more life in every bite. That's not a burden, that's a gift. A shift in awareness that allows our food to serve us better and our bodies to receive more of what they need, simply by closing the fridge and rethinking what fresh really means. Surprising foods to keep out of the fridge. Type 1. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are one of those rare foods that sit at the intersection of flavor, color, and health, offering not just visual and culinary pleasure, but genuine nutritional power. They are rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant known to support heart health, reduce inflammation, and even lower the risk of certain cancers. They contain vitamin C for immune support, potassium for blood pressure regulation, and fiber to aid digestion. But the way tomatoes deliver all this goodness hinges on one key factor: ripeness. And that ripening process is deeply connected to temperature, especially in the days after harvest. When tomatoes are placed in the fridge too early, the cold temperature disrupts a process called ethylene signaling. Ethylene is a natural plant hormone that tomatoes use to guide their ripening, soften their flesh, and deepen their color and sweetness. When they're chilled prematurely, this process stops abruptly, leaving the tomato firm, mealy, and bland. The skin might look fine, but inside the texture turns rubbery and the flavor fades into a watery memory of what it could have been. This matters especially after 50, when our taste buds become less sensitive and our brains rely more on the quality of flavor and aroma to stimulate appetite and digestive response. A well-ripened tomato can activate salivation, awaken digestive enzymes, and trigger a deeper satisfaction after a meal. But a cold, flavorless tomato, it often ends up left on the plate, uneaten, unappreciated, and ultimately wasted. Even more importantly, some of the nutritional benefits of tomatoes depend on ripeness. Lycopene levels, for example, increase significantly as a tomato matures. A tomato allowed to ripen fully on the counter can contain almost double the lycopene of one chilled too early. That's a significant loss for a single storage mistake. And for older adults trying to protect their cardiovascular system or reduce systemic inflammation, that's not just a flavor issue, it's a health one. So what's the better way? Keep tomatoes at room temperature, out of direct sunlight, and stem side down. That little adjustment, placing the tomato on its head, helps reduce moisture loss, minimizes bruising, and encourages even ripening. You'll notice the skin takes on a deeper, more consistent color and the flesh softens gently without becoming mushy. The aroma intensifies, the acidity balances, and the sugars naturally develop, making each slice more vibrant, more digestible, and more satisfying. If you've already refrigerated tomatoes, all is not lost. Let them come back to room temperature for at least 24 hours before eating to partially restore flavor. But know that some of the texture damage may be irreversible. Going forward, make counter storage your default. Use a shallow bowl or basket and rotate them gently every day. When you see the skins slightly wrinkling or feel a soft give under your thumb, that's your cue. Slice, roast, blend, or enjoy them raw. Their window of peak flavor is short, but it's worth waiting for. Because a ripe tomato, bursting with juice and warmth and complexity, does more than nourish. It revives your palate, your digestion, and your relationship with food that tastes like food. Not just after 50, but especially after 50, that kind of vibrancy matters. It keeps you eating, enjoying, and connecting with meals, with memories, with yourself. And it starts not in the kitchen, but with the quiet decision not to put them in the fridge. Type 2. Avocados. Avocados are one of nature's most elegant health offerings. A creamy, heart-supportive fruit packed with healthy monounsaturated fats, potassium, magnesium, and fiber, all wrapped in a soft green package that lends itself beautifully to everything from morning toast to evening salads. But as anyone who's ever sliced into one too soon knows, avocados are also notoriously temperamental, and nothing ruins their promise faster than refrigeration at the wrong time. Because avocados are not like other fruits, they're climacteric, which means they ripen after being picked, and that ripening is driven by a natural surge of ethylene gas. When you interrupt that delicate process with cold temperatures, especially before the fruit has had a chance to soften on its own, you don't just slow ripening, you often stop it entirely. The flesh becomes rubbery, uneven, sometimes even discolored, and the flavor turns flat and waxy instead of buttery and rich. It's a texture trap that confuses the senses and cheats you out of both enjoyment and nutrition. This is especially important after 50, when your digestive system slows and your body needs food that works with it, not against it. A properly ripened avocado offers easy-to-digest fats that help absorb fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K, nutrients critical for maintaining strong bones, vibrant skin, and steady energy. But an unripe or cold-hardened avocado becomes more difficult to break down, can cause gastrointestinal discomfort, and may even lead to waste because of its unappetizing texture. The older we get, the more important it becomes to maximize not just what we eat, but what we absorb and how our body feels afterward. An underripe, fridge-ruined avocado doesn't support that goal. So how do you unlock the full potential of this nourishing fruit? By learning to time and store it with precision and patience. The best way to ripen an avocado is to leave it on the counter, ideally in a paper bag if you want to speed things up, and let nature take its course. The paper bag traps ethylene gas close to the fruit, promoting even softening. If you need even faster results, add a banana or apple to the bag. These emit ethylene and help move things along. Once your avocado yields gently to pressure but doesn't feel mushy, it's ready. Only at that point should you refrigerate it, and even then just for a short window, maybe a day or two, to slow further softening if you're not quite ready to eat it. Refrigeration at this stage preserves its ripeness without compromising its texture, giving you a little extra time without losing quality. This matters not just for your digestion, but for your experience. Food after 50 should be as joyful as it is functional. You want that first slice to feel like silk, not rubber. You want to taste the full, round richness of avocado's natural oils, not chew through cold, fibrous lumps that feel like disappointment. And you want to treat your ingredients with care because in treating them well, you are, in a way, treating yourself well. It's a relationship between food and body, preparation and pleasure, habit and health. And when you store and ripen avocados correctly, they repay you with more than nutrition. They support your heart, stabilize your blood sugar, help reduce joint inflammation, and provide a satiety that keeps cravings at bay. They also pair beautifully with the kinds of foods that help older adults thrive. Leafy greens, whole grains, lean proteins, fermented vegetables. A perfect avocado isn't just a moment of flavor, it's a bridge to balance. So next time you bring a few home, give them the time and space they need. Keep them close, keep them warm, keep them off the fridge shelf until they're ready to reward you. And when you slice one open and see that perfect green glow, you'll know you didn't just preserve an ingredient, you honored a ritual of ripening, patience, and nourishment that mirrors the very path you're walking now. Type 3. Bananas. Bananas are often seen as the ultimate grab-and-go fruit, convenient, naturally sweet, and full of potassium. They're a staple in smoothies, a classic on breakfast tables, and a go-to for quick energy. But what many people, especially those over 50, don't realize is that bananas are also highly sensitive to storage conditions. And how you store them can directly impact both their nutritional value and how your digestive system responds to them. Putting bananas in the refrigerator before they're ripe disrupts the natural enzymatic process that turns starch into sugar. Instead of ripening evenly into that creamy, easily digestible texture most of us love, refrigerated bananas become grayish, tough, and flavorless. The peel blackens prematurely while the inside stays starchy and underdeveloped. It's a visual and metabolic mismatch, and for those managing blood sugar or digestive sensitivity, it can quietly work against the very benefits bananas are supposed to offer. For adults over 50, this matters more than ever because the way our body processes carbohydrates changes with age. Insulin sensitivity often declines, and blood sugar becomes more volatile. When you eat an unripe banana, particularly one that has been chilled and never fully ripened, you're consuming more resistant starch, which can ferment in the gut, causing gas, bloating, and discomfort. At the same time, the body has to work harder to convert that starch into usable energy, which can lead to sluggishness or sugar cravings later. In contrast, a fully ripened banana, one that has developed its natural sugars on the countertop, is easier to digest, gentler on the gut, and provides a more stable release of energy, especially when paired with a protein or fat like almond butter, Greek yogurt, or a handful of walnuts. There's also a psychological angle to consider. After 50, appetite often becomes more sensitive to texture, temperature, and aroma. Food that feels unpleasant in the mouth or looks unappetizing can subtly reduce our interest in eating. That's dangerous when appetite is already reduced due to hormonal shifts or medication side effects. A soft, warm banana with golden skin and a few brown freckles signals ripeness, sweetness, and nourishment. It invites consumption, but a banana pulled cold from the fridge with a blackened peel and stiff interior can be off-putting, even if technically still edible. If you're trying to maintain healthy eating habits in later life, these small sensory cues make a big difference in whether you enjoy your food or avoid it. The better approach is to store bananas at room temperature, ideally hanging or in a breathable bowl where air can circulate and they're not bruised by weight. Let them ripen slowly, naturally. If they're ripening too fast, you can separate them at the stem to slow ethylene gas release. And if you need to preserve ripe bananas, only then should you consider the freezer. But peel them first, slice if desired, and freeze in a sealed container or bag. Frozen bananas are perfect for smoothies or baking and maintain their nutrient profile much better than those left in the fridge. In essence, bananas are a gift of gentle energy and gut-friendly fiber, but only when we treat them with the timing and respect they require. Their transformation from green and starchy to golden and sweet mirrors the aging journey itself, slow, patient, and full of subtle complexity. When stored with care, they offer not just fuel but comfort. And at a time when digestion and metabolism need more kindness than ever, something as small as keeping bananas off the fridge shelf becomes an act of nourishment, not just for the body, but for the rhythm of your life. It's a reminder that after 50, every detail of self-care counts, especially the ones hiding in plain sight. Type 4 bread. Bread in all its forms, whole grain, sourdough, sprouted, seeded, is more than just a staple on the plate. It's a comfort food, a carrier of memories, a symbol of warmth and nourishment. But as we age, and as our digestive and metabolic systems shift, how we store and prepare bread matters more than ever. For those over 50, food isn't just about filling up, it's about digestibility, satisfaction, and making every bite count in terms of both nutrition and experience. And when it comes to bread, one of the most common and quietly harmful mistakes is refrigeration. It may seem logical, we refrigerate food to keep it fresh. But with bread, cold temperatures do the opposite. The science is simple but powerful. When bread is exposed to refrigerator temperatures, the starch molecules inside it begin a process called retrogradation. This causes the bread's internal moisture to migrate outward, evaporate, and leave behind a dry, rigid structure. The result, bread that feels stale even if it's only a day or two old. The crust becomes leathery, the crumb tough, and the taste dull. It's not just less enjoyable, it's harder to chew, harder to digest, and less likely to spark the kind of satisfaction that encourages mindful eating. For older adults who may already experience reduced saliva production, weakened chewing ability, or slowed gastric motility, this texture shift becomes more than a nuisance, it becomes a barrier. Bread that's dry and hard doesn't break down as easily in the mouth or stomach. It can contribute to bloating, discomfort, or even avoidance of foods that would otherwise support fiber intake and satiety. That avoidance then contributes to a cycle of missing key nutrients, B vitamins, magnesium, trace minerals, that are often found in whole grain or fermented breads and are vital for aging bodies. So what's the smarter, more gut-friendly solution? If you buy fresh bread and know you'll eat it within 2 or 3 days, store it at room temperature in a paper or cloth bag. These allow for a balance of air circulation and moisture control, keeping the crust crisp and the inside soft. Avoid sealing bread in plastic unless it's in the freezer. Plastic traps moisture and accelerates mold, especially in humid environments. If you're not going to finish the loaf in time, your best option is to freeze it in individual slices. This preserves both moisture and flavor while allowing you to thaw only what you need when you need it. Just a quick toast or low oven warm-up brings it back to life, soft and fragrant without the staleness or spoilage risk. And beyond the technical tips, there's an emotional piece here too. Bread for many is associated with comfort. A slice with soup, a bit of toast in the morning, a sandwich shared with a friend. Those experiences remain vital as we grow older, anchoring us in routine and connection. Preserving bread's texture isn't just about taste, it's about maintaining those rituals that feed more than the body. When your bread is fresh and enjoyable, you're more likely to eat in tune with your needs, to feel satisfied, to avoid overeating in search of a texture or flavor that your body already missed. So don't let refrigeration rob your bread of its best self. Respect it like you would any nourishing habit, with intention, with timing, and with the quiet awareness that small adjustments often yield the biggest rewards. Because in this season of life, we're not just storing food, we're protecting experiences, and a well-kept loaf is a small but meaningful part of that. Type 5 olive oil. Olive oil, especially extra virgin, is often considered liquid gold, and for good reason. It's a cornerstone of the Mediterranean diet, celebrated for its heart-protective fats, powerful antioxidants, and smooth, nourishing flavor. For those over 50, olive oil becomes more than just a cooking fat. It's a tool for inflammation control, cognitive support, joint mobility, and even digestive ease. Rich in monounsaturated fats and polyphenols, it supports healthy cholesterol ratios, protects cell membranes, and may help slow age-related cognitive decline. But to reap these benefits, olive oil must be treated not just as an ingredient, but as a delicate and perishable natural product, one that doesn't belong anywhere near the refrigerator. Putting olive oil in the fridge might seem like a preservation tactic, but cold temperatures actually work against its structure and flavor. When chilled, olive oil solidifies, turns cloudy, and begins to separate. This may not sound like a big deal until you realize that the delicate compounds, those antioxidants and flavor-bearing esters, are extremely temperature-sensitive. The cold disrupts their balance, leading to oxidation once the oil is returned to room temperature. You may not see this oxidation, but you'll taste it. The oil becomes flat, bitter, or oddly musty. What once carried notes of pepper, grass, or fruitiness becomes dull and lifeless. More importantly, that shift in flavor reflects a deeper loss: the breakdown of the oil's anti-inflammatory and heart-supportive compounds. For aging adults who are trying to support vascular health, manage arthritis symptoms, or simply cook with fewer processed fats, this is not a trivial loss. Every tablespoon of olive oil can be a meaningful part of your health plan, if it's stored and used wisely. So instead of reaching for the fridge door, think about olive oil like you would a bottle of fine wine or a premium spice. It needs to be kept in a place that honors its quality. That means a cool, dark cupboard, away from heat sources like the stove or oven, and always in a dark glass bottle that shields it from light. Light is another enemy of olive oil, accelerating the degradation of its phenolic compounds and turning beneficial fats rancid. If your olive oil comes in a clear bottle, transfer it to an opaque one or store it in the back of a cabinet, not near the counter window. It's also worth checking your habits. If you leave the bottle open or pour directly from it into a hot pan, you're exposing it to unnecessary air and heat, two more enemies of its potency. Instead, consider using a small cruet for daily use, keeping the main bottle sealed tightly. If you buy olive oil in bulk, divide it into smaller containers and refill as needed. This not only preserves the oil's quality but makes it easier to portion, which matters for calorie control, something many older adults are more mindful of as metabolism slows. And beyond the nutrition, olive oil is about pleasure. Its silky texture and nuanced flavor elevate vegetables, lean proteins, grains, and even simple toast. After 50, when appetite sometimes fades or digestion becomes more selective, the sensory experience of food matters more than ever. Olive oil helps make food feel alive, glossy, aromatic, satisfying. But that only happens when the oil itself is alive with its full spectrum of antioxidants and flavor. Chilling it robs it of that vitality. Keeping it warm and well stored preserves not just the oil, but the joy it brings to your meals. In the end, storing olive oil properly isn't about being picky. It's about being protective. It's about understanding that real nourishment requires more than good ingredients, it requires care. And in a stage of life where every choice adds up, where our bodies speak louder and respond quicker to what we consume, honoring that care becomes part of our rhythm. So let the fridge hold the milk and the butter. Let your olive oil rest in the shadows of a quiet shelf, untouched by the chill, ready to do what it does best: bring warmth, flavor, and healing to your plate and your life. Type 6 Garlic. Garlic has long been more than just a flavor enhancer. It is a culinary staple and a deeply revered medicinal plant, known for its antibacterial, antiviral, and anti-inflammatory properties. For people over 50, garlic can be particularly valuable. Its natural compound allicin supports cardiovascular health, helps regulate blood pressure, and offers gentle immune support, which becomes increasingly important with age. It's also a digestive aid, helping to stimulate the production of stomach acid and enzymes that may slow with time. But all of those benefits are tied directly to garlic's integrity as a whole living bulb. And that's why storing garlic in the refrigerator is one of the most common mistakes made in kitchens everywhere. Garlic is not meant to be cold. It's a dry crop that thrives in breathable, room-temperature environments. When placed in the fridge, the added moisture triggers an unnatural environment for the bulb. Instead of staying dormant, it becomes confused, thinking it's time to grow, and so it begins to sprout. These green shoots not only taste bitter and overpowering, but they also signal that the garlic's most beneficial compounds are already being rerouted to support the growing sprout. The result is a clove that's less potent, both in flavor and in medicinal strength. Sprouting also shortens the shelf life of garlic dramatically. The once firm, papery bulbs begin to soften, mold, and collapse from the inside out, especially if exposed to condensation or fluctuating temperatures inside the fridge. For older adults who may not cook daily, losing a whole bulb of garlic to mold or sprouting isn't just frustrating, it's wasteful. And more importantly, it means missing out on a healing food that could have helped lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, or simply make a meal more satisfying. That loss is entirely preventable with the right storage. Garlic should be kept in a dry, breathable container, something like a mesh basket, a clay garlic keeper, or even a paper bag with small air holes. It should be placed in a cool, dark spot in the pantry or on the counter, away from direct sunlight but not locked away in an airtight container or drawer. The goal is air circulation. Garlic hates humidity, but it loves to breathe. This kind of traditional storage isn't just better for the bulb, it's also better for your kitchen rhythm. When garlic is visible, easy to access, and stored whole, it becomes part of your daily cooking rather than something forgotten in the back of a drawer. And whole garlic cloves last longer when left unpeeled until just before use. Once peeled, they can be stored in a small airtight container in the fridge for a few days, but only if you're using them soon. For longer-term use, some prefer to mince garlic and freeze it with a little olive oil in ice cube trays. But this should only be done after the garlic has matured and been used fresh, not to salvage sprouting or soggy bulbs. For people managing blood pressure, inflammation, or sluggish digestion, garlic can become a quiet daily ally, but only when it's fresh, firm, and full of life. A garlic clove that's sprouted or molded has lost its therapeutic edge. And for those of us in the second half of life, we need every natural edge we can get. So treat your garlic with the same wisdom you treat your bones or your skin. Protect it from what drains it. Give it air, give it time, give it the right environment to stay whole and potent. It doesn't need refrigeration, it needs respect. And when you give it that, it gives back flavor, fire, and a little ancient strength in every clove. Type 7 uncut melons. Melons, whether it's cantaloupe, honeydew, or watermelon, hold a unique place in the rhythm of nourishing life. They're sweet, hydrating, and deeply refreshing, especially during warmer seasons when the body craves moisture and easy-to-digest nourishment. For those over 50, melons offer more than just seasonal pleasure. They're a source of gentle fiber, antioxidants, and water-rich electrolytes that support kidney function, bowel regularity, and healthy skin. But like many whole fruits, melons are living organisms even after they've been harvested. And when placed in the refrigerator before they've had a chance to fully ripen, their internal chemistry, particularly the availability of vitamin C and other key antioxidants, begins to deteriorate. The cold temperatures of refrigeration slow down the enzymatic ripening process that melons rely on to develop their natural sugars, soften their flesh, and build their vitamin content. Vitamin C is especially vulnerable in this process. Studies have shown that uncut melons stored in the fridge before they're ripe can lose a significant portion of their vitamin C content compared to those ripened at room temperature. That's no small thing. For older adults, vitamin C plays a vital role not just in immune function, but in collagen production, joint health, and even the repair of the gastrointestinal lining. It's also a key antioxidant that protects against oxidative stress, which contributes to chronic conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and even cognitive decline. So that chilled melon, while still hydrating, may be missing one of its most important benefits, simply because it was stored too soon in a cold environment. Beyond nutrition, there's the issue of taste and texture. A melon that ripens on the counter develops a fragrant aroma and a complex sweetness that is noticeably muted in one that's been chilled too early. The texture also shifts. Pre-chilled uncut melons tend to be mealy or mushy rather than juicy and crisp. For older adults whose appetite might already be more sensitive to flavor and mouthfeel, these changes can make the difference between finishing a plate and pushing it away. As we age, we eat less, not just because we're less hungry, but because food has to work harder to entice us. And when it comes to naturally sweet, nutrient-dense foods like melons, preserving their best qualities is a simple but powerful step toward improving dietary quality without adding more volume or complexity. The best practice is to allow uncut melons to ripen fully at room temperature. Keep them on the counter, away from direct sunlight, and let them sit until they develop a gentle give at the stem end and a soft, sweet aroma. Once ripe, melons can be sliced and then refrigerated, ideally in airtight containers to preserve moisture and prevent them from absorbing other fridge odors. This post-slice chilling preserves their texture and makes them a convenient, refreshing snack. But until they reach that ripe point, refrigeration does them no favors. If you're worried about spoilage, check the melon daily for signs of ripeness. A cantaloupe, for example, will often detach slightly from the stem and emit a musky scent when it's ready. Watermelon won't have much aroma, but it will become slightly heavier and firmer at the base. This mindfulness around ripeness isn't just about the fruit. It becomes a way of tuning into the natural pacing of food. a rhythm that rewards attention and slows you down enough to really savor what you're preparing. Uncut melons, like so many whole foods, are best when we allow them to be themselves. When we understand that temperature isn't just about convenience, it's a part of how we either preserve or impair the healing nature of what we eat. After 50, we're not looking to eat more, we're looking to get more from what we eat. And something as simple as waiting to refrigerate a melon until after it's been sliced becomes an act of nourishment that supports your body's needs, respects your digestion, and honors the full spectrum of health a fruit like melon can deliver when we let it ripen on its own terms. Type 8 honey crystallization danger. Honey is more than just a natural sweetener. It's a heritage food, a healing tonic, and for many adults over 50, a daily ritual tied to memory, immunity, and digestion. Whether stirred into warm tea before bed, drizzled over oatmeal, or taken by the spoonful to soothe a cough or sore throat, honey has a place in the rhythms of later life that's both comforting and functional. Raw honey, in particular, offers trace enzymes, antioxidants, antibacterial compounds, and soothing effects on the gut lining, making it especially valuable for those with aging digestive systems, dry throats, or inflammatory conditions. But its magic is easily compromised by improper storage, and one of the most common missteps is refrigeration. Putting honey in the fridge might seem like a harmless choice. After all, we refrigerate many natural products to keep them fresh. But in honey's case, the cold does just the opposite. Due to its unique balance of natural sugars, primarily glucose and fructose, honey reacts to cold temperatures by crystallizing. This doesn't just affect the texture. It disrupts the subtle flavor profile, turning what should be smooth and velvety into a grainy, sometimes chalky paste. That transformation can be disheartening when you're expecting comfort and end up with a jarring bite that feels more like sand than syrup. And while crystallized honey is still safe to eat, the experience is altered, and for many, the joy of the moment is diminished. For older adults whose meals are fewer and more intentional, these details matter. Texture, aroma, and warmth play a larger role in food satisfaction as we age. If your honey no longer stirs smoothly into your tea or spreads gently on toast, you're less likely to reach for it, and that means missing out on a nutrient-rich food that could be helping regulate your immune system, soothe acid reflux, or offer gentle prebiotic support to your gut flora. The solution, thankfully, is simple and timeless. Store your honey at room temperature in a tightly sealed glass jar away from direct light and heat. A pantry or cupboard is perfect. If your honey does begin to crystallize, you can restore its texture by placing the jar in a warm water bath. Not boiling, just gently heated, until the crystals dissolve. Never microwave honey, especially raw honey, as the intense heat can destroy many of its beneficial enzymes. This wisdom isn't just rooted in science, it's part of culinary culture. Oprah Winfrey once shared that she keeps a dedicated tea and honey corner in her kitchen, with different varieties of local and raw honey stored neatly at room temperature. "Crystals belong in jewelry, not my honey," she said with a smile, and her point holds. When honey is respected and stored well, it rewards you not only with sweetness but with depth, floral notes, and medicinal richness that touches every part of the experience, from throat to stomach to spirit. And for those in the second half of life, honey's gifts go beyond flavor. Raw honey has been shown to help support sleep quality, especially when taken in small amounts before bed. It helps replenish liver glycogen, which can prevent early morning wakefulness, and its natural sugars stabilize blood sugar without the spike crash effect of refined sugar. Many older adults also use honey to support seasonal allergy resistance by choosing local varieties with trace pollen exposure. All of these benefits hinge on honey being intact, chemically stable, unprocessed, and free from cold-induced crystallization. So keep your honey out of the fridge. Treat it like the sacred food it is. Let it sit close to where you use it, beside the kettle, near your breakfast shelf, or tucked in a drawer next to your evening teas. That way it's always warm, always ready, always rich with the healing that only time-honored foods can bring. Because honey, like health after 50, is at its best when it's kept close, treated gently, and allowed to do its work in its own natural way. Type 9 potatoes. Potatoes are one of the most iconic comfort foods across generations. Baked, mashed, roasted, or tucked into stews, they've been a kitchen mainstay for good reason. They're affordable, versatile, and naturally rich in potassium, vitamin C, vitamin B6, and resistant starch, all of which offer real value for people over 50 who are navigating shifting metabolism, fluctuating blood sugar, and the need for steady, digestible sources of energy. But that value depends heavily on how potatoes are stored. When stored improperly, particularly in the refrigerator, their nutrient profile and texture change in ways that can quietly undermine both their culinary and health benefits. Most people assume that the fridge is a universal storage solution, but for potatoes, the cold environment actually initiates a chemical reaction that turns the natural starches into sugars, a process known as cold-induced sweetening. While this might sound harmless, it creates a dual problem for those in midlife and beyond. First, it alters the flavor and texture of the potato, making it overly sweet and prone to uneven cooking. When roasted or fried, these excess sugars also promote the formation of acrylamide, a potentially harmful compound linked to inflammation and neurotoxicity. Second, and more subtly, this starch-to-sugar shift can contribute to unintended blood sugar spikes, especially for those managing prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or insulin resistance, which become increasingly common with age. What's more, potatoes stored in cold, damp environments often sprout prematurely or develop green patches due to a buildup of solanine, a naturally occurring glycoalkaloid that can be toxic in large amounts. Solanine concentrations increase when potatoes are exposed to light or cold for extended periods, and even in small amounts, it can cause digestive discomfort. This means that refrigeration not only affects the taste and texture, but can also introduce compounds that are harder on the gut, an issue for older adults with more sensitive digestive systems or those on medications that already affect GI health. The best way to preserve the health benefits of potatoes is to treat them not as a throw-them-anywhere item, but as a living vegetable with specific storage needs. They should be kept in a cool, dry, and dark place, ideally in a paper bag, mesh sack, or ventilated box that allows for airflow while protecting them from excess light and humidity. A pantry, cellar, or cupboard away from appliances or windows is ideal. Paper bags are superior to plastic or sealed containers because they prevent moisture buildup, which can lead to spoilage or sprouting. It's also important to store potatoes away from onions, as both release moisture and gases that accelerate spoilage when kept close together. For those who cook less frequently, check stored potatoes weekly, discarding any that are soft, shriveled, or sprouting. This not only preserves quality, but also reinforces a rhythm of attentiveness, one of the most overlooked forms of care we can practice in our kitchens. And while some people might be tempted to peel and store raw potatoes in the fridge for convenience, it's better to only prepare them fresh, as pre-cut potatoes exposed to cold and oxygen quickly lose their nutrients and absorb more water, resulting in a soggy, less nutritious final product. When stored properly, potatoes can last for weeks, sometimes months, without losing their nutritional integrity. And when prepared mindfully, boiled, roasted, or mashed with healthy fats like olive oil or grass-fed butter, they can serve as a grounding, satisfying part of a diet that supports longevity and energy after 50. So if you've been keeping potatoes in your fridge out of habit, it might be time to rethink their place in your kitchen. Move them to a breathable container in a dark corner, give them the environment they need to stay balanced, and in return, they'll continue to nourish you with their earthy strength, their grounding comfort, and their quiet nutritional support. Because after 50, food is no longer just about ease or tradition. It's about trust, attention, and learning how even small changes, like where you store your potatoes, can ripple into bigger shifts in how your body feels and functions. Type 10 onions. Onions are one of the foundational ingredients in any kitchen, known not just for their pungent flavor, but for the way they transform food, adding depth, aroma, and complexity to dishes across every cuisine. For those over 50, onions also offer important health benefits that are often overlooked. They contain compounds like quercetin, a potent antioxidant that supports cardiovascular health, reduces inflammation, and may even play a role in cognitive protection. Onions are also rich in sulfur compounds that support detoxification pathways in the liver, and they contribute prebiotic fiber that helps feed healthy gut bacteria, which becomes especially crucial as the microbiome tends to weaken with age. But despite their hardy outer appearance, onions are surprisingly sensitive to how and where they are stored, and placing them in the refrigerator is one of the most common and harmful mistakes people make, especially when aiming to stretch freshness or simplify prep. Refrigeration exposes onions to cold, moist conditions that disrupt their cell walls. Instead of staying dry and crisp, they begin to absorb excess moisture from the surrounding air. That moisture seeps into the layers of the onion, causing soft spots, internal breakdown, and often a premature onset of mold. At the same time, the chilling effect dulls their natural enzymatic defenses, making them more susceptible to bacterial growth. What this means practically is that your onion, whether red, yellow, or white, will spoil faster in the fridge than in a properly ventilated space. And when it does, it doesn't just decay quietly. The smell intensifies. The powerful sulfur compounds that make onions so health supportive also make them highly aromatic when they begin to rot, often seeping into nearby foods, flavoring your dairy or produce with unwanted notes of decay. If you've ever opened your fridge and caught a whiff of something sharp and sour without knowing where it's coming from, it's likely an onion stored too long and too cold. Older adults are often more sensitive to strong smells, and those aromas can trigger nausea, appetite loss, or food aversion, especially when medication side effects or taste changes are already present. So preserving the clean flavor of onions and keeping your fridge environment neutral isn't just a matter of preference. It can directly impact your willingness to eat and your comfort in the kitchen. The good news is that onions are designed by nature to store well if you follow their lead. They thrive in dark, dry environments with steady airflow, which means the best way to store them is in a mesh bag, open basket, or paper sack in a cool pantry or cabinet away from sunlight and heat. This allows excess moisture to evaporate and keeps their skins papery and protective, maintaining firmness and flavor for several weeks or even months, depending on the variety. It's also essential to store onions away from other moisture-emitting produce like potatoes. While they may seem like pantry neighbors, the gases and moisture they release actually accelerate each other's spoilage. Keeping them separate preserves both. If you've already cut an onion and want to save the rest, only then should you use the refrigerator, but with precautions. Wrap the onion tightly in beeswax paper or store it in an airtight glass container to contain the odor and prevent moisture loss. Use the cut portion within 2 to 3 days to preserve flavor and prevent bacterial growth. Never store onions in plastic bags, as the lack of airflow quickly leads to condensation and rot. Beyond storage, onions, when kept fresh, are one of the most economical and accessible ways to boost the flavor and health quotient of your meals without adding calories, sugar, or complexity. A quick sauté of onions in olive oil forms the base for countless dishes, and raw onions in salads or on sandwiches bring not only crunch but circulatory support. As the body ages, maintaining blood flow, managing inflammation, and keeping meals satisfying becomes more and more important. Onions contribute to all three, but only if they're kept in a state that respects their natural structure and avoids the cold, wet environment of the fridge. So next time you bring home a bag of onions, think less about convenience and more about continuity. How you store them reflects how you respect their role in your food and your health. A well-ventilated basket, a little bit of darkness, and a steady room temperature are all they need to do what they've done for centuries. Nourish, support, and flavor your meals with strength and subtlety. It's a small shift that pays big dividends, especially in a life stage where every layer of wellness matters. Just like the onion itself, what's underneath is where the magic really lives, and all it takes is a little air and a little patience to let it shine. Smart storage habits for longevity. Smart storage isn't just a kitchen skill, it's a longevity habit. It's one of those quiet practices that over time protects your health, preserves your nutrition, and brings more joy and flavor into your meals. Especially after 50, when digestion slows, nutrient absorption becomes more delicate, and every bite counts more than ever, how you store your food becomes just as important as what you buy. It's not about having more food. It's about taking better care of the food you already have. It's about preserving vitality, not just in your body, but in your ingredients, your routine, and your home. One of the simplest and most overlooked ways to elevate your food storage is to create dedicated counter baskets. Not decorative bowls that gather clutter, but intentional, breathable spaces that help room temperature produce ripen properly, stay visible, and avoid being forgotten. These baskets can be woven, wooden, ceramic, or metal, as long as they allow air to circulate around the food. Place them in shaded corners of your kitchen, away from direct sunlight or heat, and group your produce by how they ripen. Tomatoes, bananas, avocados, garlic, onions, these all benefit from being out in the open. Not because they need to be admired, but because their ripening continues after you bring them home. When they're hidden away in drawers or shoved in a fridge, you interrupt the life cycle of the food and often mute its taste, texture, and nutritional peak. But when they're stored where they can breathe, they speak back to you. A subtle aroma, a deepening color, a soft touch, they let you know when it's time to eat them. This responsiveness becomes a rhythm you can trust. Building smart storage into your weekly routine doesn't require a complete lifestyle overhaul. It simply means taking 5 minutes every few days to check in with your produce. Touch the tomatoes, smell the melons, feel the weight of the avocados. Are they ripening too quickly? Move them to the fridge, but only after they've reached softness. Are some onions starting to sprout? Move them to the front and use them first. Rotate older produce forward, just like grocery stores do, to reduce waste and keep your meals vibrant. When food is kept visible and accessible, it invites use. And when it's stored in a way that honors its natural rhythm, it becomes a partner in your health, not just a placeholder in your pantry. This level of care is not about perfection, it's about attentiveness. It's about recognizing that food is a living thing, even after it's been picked or pulled or harvested. And that when we treat it like something alive, it rewards us with more flavor, more nutrients, and more joy. For adults over 50, this attentiveness is a form of self-respect. It's a way to say, I'm not going to rush through this part of life. I'm going to savor it. I'm going to care for what I consume, and in doing so, I'll care for myself. Because so often we think we need new ingredients, better diets, more supplements. But in truth, what we often need is to simply be more present with what we already have. That apple on your counter, that avocado just starting to soften, that bunch of bananas turning gold, they are invitations. They are opportunities to nourish not just your body but your awareness. They ask nothing fancy of you. Just that you pay attention, that you learn their timing, respect their needs, and welcome them when they're ready. This rhythm of ripeness is the same rhythm your body is asking for in midlife and beyond. Steady, intuitive, patient. So take a moment and look around your kitchen. Clear a space, add a basket, make room not just for produce but for the habit of caring. Check in weekly, rotate your goods, trust your senses, and you'll waste less, eat fresher, and nourish yourself with far more than just food. You'll build a practice of presence, and that's where real longevity begins. Not with what you store, but with how you live. Not with more, but with better. Better attention, better choices, better care, because aging well doesn't happen by accident. It happens through the rituals we repeat and the small things we protect, even something as small as a basket on the counter. Final, good health isn't just about what's on your plate, it's about how you treat what's on your plate before it ever gets there. It's in the quiet choices you make in your kitchen when no one's watching, where you place the tomatoes, how you store the bread, whether you let your avocados ripen in the light or harden in the cold. These aren't just habits, they're reflections of how much care we're willing to offer to the things that nourish us. And the truth is, after 50, our bodies begin to whisper what they used to shout. They ask for less chaos, more intention, less waste, more wisdom, less about doing more, and more about doing what we already do but with care. So I ask you gently, which item will you move out of your fridge today? Just one. The onion that's gone soft, the melon that's lost its sweetness, the olive oil you forgot was clouding in the corner. Start there. Notice what happens, not just in the taste or the texture, but in your digestion, in your energy, in the quiet satisfaction of a better bite. These are the small steps that over time lead to powerful shifts. If this video opened your eyes, or even just made you tilt your head and think, I'd be honored if you'd share it with someone you care about. Someone who's been putting bananas in the fridge without realizing what it costs. Leave a comment below with your biggest surprise or the change you're going to try this week. I read every single one. And if you haven't yet, I warmly invite you to subscribe to Age Defiant Health. We are so close to our first 1,000 subscribers, and every click, every share, helps me keep showing up here with practical, peaceful, age-wise guidance that helps you feel strong, steady, and fully alive. Thank you for being here, for showing up not just for your food, but for yourself. Because when we start treating our ingredients with reverence, we start treating our lives that way too. And that, my friend, is the kind of nourishment that never goes stale. Stay grounded, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video.